Ladies and gents, welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about this 2018 13-inch MacBook Pro with Retina display. Here is our MacBook. We'll go ahead and pull it out of its box. As you can see, this is the space gray model and it is the 4 Thunderbolt port edition. So this is the high-end 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2018. Overall, the design is very similar to any of the 2016 through 2019 and even 2020 13-inch MacBook Pros. The notable difference between this and some of the other versions include the keyboard. I should say notable external differences. There are lots of differences inside the computer. So as we open the computer, you are met with the 13.3-inch Retina display. This is a 1440p resolution, and the colors are excellent, as is the contrast and brightness. Of course, right below that display is the infamous touch bar. Some people love it, some people hate it. Personally, I think it's a good feature. I wish Apple would have kept it in addition to the function keys. I think we could have fit both in here. On either side, we have our speakers, which sound fantastic for a device this small, thin, and light. Below the touch bar, we have our keyboard. Now, this is I believe the 4th generation of Butterfly keyboard. And in my opinion, it sounds pretty good and it feels nice to type on. I'll let you guys have a listen here. It's a very tactile experience. There's not much key travel on the keys, but in my opinion, it feels nice to type on. However, this keyboard is one of the several shortcomings that this model MacBook has. The keyboard itself is not flawed, but the issue is when dust and debris get under the keys, it messes up the mechanism. In my experience, that's never been a problem. I had a 2016 15-inch that I used as my main computer all the way up until 2021 and never had any keyboard issues. I took care of my device and I never ate food or subjected it to dirty areas, and the keyboard was just fine. That said, if you're not that neat and organized, this keyboard can become a problem, but in this case, this one is in really good condition. We have our nice big Force Touch trackpad, which is one of the best of any laptops I've ever used. Really, there's nothing that comes close to Apple's trackpads. So let's talk about the specs of this computer. I'm going to go ahead and start a QuickTime recording of the screen so you guys get a better view of what we're looking at. So we will go ahead and switch to that. So here we go. We're going to go into about this Mac because I want you guys to see the specs of my computer. I have the upgraded 2.7 gigahertz. This is a quad-core i7. This was the first 13-inch MacBook Pro to feature quad-core processors. We've got Intel Iris Plus graphics, 655, with 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM. 16 gigabytes of LPDDR3 memory will support that system. We're running macOS Ventura, although this device can support macOS Sonoma, although that may be the final update for this computer. Going into settings, we can see this is a 1 terabyte computer. So this one was offered in 256, 512, 1 terabyte, and I think 2 terabytes as storage options. 1 terabyte is a good middle ground for doing lots of things such as video editing, photo editing, or just keeping lots of photos and movies on your computer. If we head over to the power tab inside of system information, we can see the battery cycle count is 48, which is incredibly low for a computer that's over 5 years old. The condition is normal as expected. And this is a good way to tell how much a MacBook has been used. The more cycles, the more use this thing has. And for these computers that have the keyboard problems, this is a great indication of the kind of condition your keyboard has. More battery cycles means more chance for dust and debris to get under those keys, which in turn will cause problems. Now, Apple did offer a replacement program for the keyboard, which included the battery, which was very nice. However, that program has ended, I believe, for all of the computers affected by that problem. Now let's get into some benchmarks. We're going to start off with a disk speed test here, and our write speeds are looking around 2.5 gigabytes, and read speeds are around the same number. that is very fast, and this is a computer that will not have any problems transferring files or reading and writing anything from the internal SSD. Now let's head over to Geekbench 5, and we're going to run the CPU benchmark as well as the OpenCL graphics benchmark. I'm going to stop the screen recording because that uses some of the processing power, and we want all resources available for this test. For the single core score, we got 1073, multi-core was 4150. Those are pretty good numbers. I will put a comparison over here on the left side for some different MacBooks that probably fall in a similar price range to this one. Moving on, we have the OpenCL graphics test. Our score was 8,475. Once again, I'm going to put some values over here on the left corresponding to MacBooks of similar price point. And moving away from Geekbench 5, we will open up Cinebench R23. Went ahead and ran that. Our score was 4,395. That's going to conclude our benchmarks. Now, let's talk about this computer and whether or not it's a good deal. So, should you buy a 2018 13-inch here at the end of 2023, early 2024? I think the answer to that comes down to the condition you're able to find the MacBook in. These models are notorious for having some issues. The first is the keyboard, like we talked about, and the next is something called Dustgate. If you Google Dustgate, you will see many articles talking about the subject. If you go into images, you can see many of these images and videos that show purple screens, just like these ones here at the top. And what happens is dust, similar to the keyboard, falls down here, which is a wide open space, and gets wedged in between the display connector, which sits somewhere down there connecting the logic board to the display. And over time, the opening and closing of the screen causes that dust and debris to slowly eat away at the display cable and ultimately damaging it. So those are two problems this device has. Both of them can be pretty significant in terms of hindering your ability to use the computer. But looking on the bright side, let's say you get one like this that's in really good condition. I'm going to put the amount that I paid for it right here. That included the box, original charging cable, and the power adapter that plugs into the wall. In my opinion, that's a pretty good deal, but around that price point, you can find a Mac Mini M1, which I know you need a screen, mouse, and keyboard for, but the performance is way better than this thing. For a little bit more, you can find an M1 MacBook Air, and for quite a bit more, actually, you can find an M1 MacBook Pro, and even looking into some of the M2 models. Ultimately, the performance of this computer is one of the best in terms of the Intel MacBook Pros, at least for CPU performance. The graphics are not as good because it does not have dedicated graphics. However, it still holds its own, and in theory, you could actually edit photos and videos on here. The performance on this is pretty similar to the 2016 and 2017 MacBook Pro 15 inches, and those hold their own quite well for video editing, which is mainly a CPU intensive task. If you're using this computer for email, web browsing, typing documents, or managing photo libraries, also a great computer for that. You've got a lovely display here with great colors, great contrast, and great brightness. The storage is plenty fast, and if you get one with 1 or 2 terabytes, then you're going to have lots of storage for quite some time. Overall, I think it's a great computer. If you can find one with low battery cycles, that probably means you're going to have a healthy keyboard and lower the odds that you're going to run into either of the two main issues that this device have. The first with the keyboard and the second with the display ribbon cable. Of course, this device only has USB-C ports. It's got 4 of them, which is a pretty good selection. Well, it's not a good selection, but it's a good amount of ports. You're going to need adapters for anything that doesn't use USB-C. Of course, you've got the touch bar here, which in my opinion is a nice tool. I enjoy using it a lot, and I miss it on my 2021 16-inch MacBook Pro. So if you can find one of these quad-core Intel MacBook Pro 13 inches for between $300 and $400, I think that's a good deal. Although I would highly recommend looking for something in the M1 category. You can spend a little bit more and get a lot more performance. But that's going to do it for this review. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you have any fun facts about the 2018-2019 MacBook Pro 13-inch, leave them in the comments as well. I would be interested in seeing if anybody has any cool information about these. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.